안녕하세요. Hello, everyone. I want to thank the KPSA for inviting me out here to Korea, this lovely country. I've only been here for one day, but I have eaten some of the best food that I have had in a very long time. And I'm a lover of Korean food. So thank you again for having me here, the KPSA. So I'm here today to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Does everyone know who the Cleveland Cavaliers are? I need to first ask that question. Everyone know? Give me a raise your hand and yell, please. Thank you. Thank you. We did just win the World Championship back in June. And it's been a crazy, crazy summer for us in Cleveland, Ohio. So today, I'm going to go over a few different things. But the main thing and the reason why we're all here today is to talk about sports sponsorship. We like to call it sports partnerships because that's essentially what it becomes when you work with brands and companies and turn them into partners. The subject of my presentation today is about building a global brand while maintaining local relevance. I'm going to, the way that I've structured the presentation is very similar to how I would pitch a proposal to a potential sponsor, but I will also take the time to pause and educate on certain areas of importance when it comes to the foundation of selling sponsorships. So, without further ado, I want to first start talking about the city of Cleveland, Ohio. 4 years ago, as recently as 4 years ago, we were the third worst team in the National Basketball Association. That was my first year with the team. When you're selling sponsorships, what happens on the court doesn't matter. So if you think that it does, you need to remove that from your mind, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to provide value to your partners, even when the team is not doing well. Also, that's something that you as an organization cannot control. So what we're going to talk about today are the things that we can control. So I want to start this off with a video that came out about 4 years ago, and it's meant to be a joke. It's something that some Clevelanders, people from Cleveland, actually produced and then put out, and it became a viral hit in the Midwest of the United States because essentially it makes fun of Cleveland because the city it used to have a very poor reputation. So here we go.
Fun times in Cleveland today, Cleveland. Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Come and look at both of our buildings. Buy some food that's prepared near the street. Who knows, you might even see this guy. You should come on down to West 6th Street. It's the perfect place if you're a douchebag. Watch the poor people all wait for buses. Who the fuck still uses a payphone? Here's the place where there used to be industry. This train is carrying jobs out of Cleveland. Cleveland leads the nation in drifters. Here's a statue of Moses Cleveland. He's the guy who invented Cleveland. Yeah!
All right. So as you can see, that was not the most well-produced video in the world, but it is very funny. It may get lost in translation here, so I apologize for that. But it's a video that we play in the office to this day because it's a catchy tune. Anyway, I want to go back and talk about the things that we control. As an organization, the Cleveland Cavaliers cannot control what happens on the court. However, we can continue to focus on working hard, and that's one thing as an organization that maintains at the top of the list when it comes to culture within the organization. So, when it comes to Cleveland, Ohio, even 4 years ago and then even more so today, there's a strong, strong, strong pride for living in Cleveland. And it's always been there. Even when I first moved there about 4 years ago, people who live in Cleveland and who are from Cleveland love their hometown. And it's something that we focus on when we're working every single day in the office. So, when it comes to things that we can control and can't control, on July 11th, 2014, this man, also known as LeBron James, decided to come back to Cleveland. I have a funny story about this. I'm not going to go into it because it's a little bit long. But I can tell you the exact time. It's one of those moments in my life that I can tell you exactly where I was, what time it was. I was eating lunch at my desk at the time. And when this happened, our phones broke. We have over 300 phones in our office. The phones broke within a matter of minutes. And they did not stop ringing for 3 days in a row. I want to say that again. The phones literally did not stop ringing for 3 days in a row when we got them back up and running. Again, it's not something that we can control, but as an organization, we were completely prepared for this, not our phones, but we were ready to take advantage of the opportunity at hand. And any good organization should be able to do that. So, since LeBron came back and at the beginning of the 2015-2016 season, a lot of things have changed. That year, we won the Eastern Conference Finals, the 2014-15 year, and we then advanced to the NBA Finals, which, if you're a basketball fan, you know that we lost in the NBA Finals to the Golden State Warriors a couple of years ago. We made it back again this year in 2016. Again, we had success. The team had success, and it was a fantastic time. And they made it again to the NBA Finals against the same team, the Golden State Warriors. And what happened after that was probably the most legendary moment in my career, and definitely something that everyone in Cleveland will never forget. But the Cleveland Cavaliers came back from a 3-1 deficit and eventually won the NBA Finals and the World Championship for the first time in 52 years. I can't stress enough what it was like to be in Cleveland at this time. I was actually at Game 7 in Oakland, California, and as soon as the game ended, I immediately wanted to teleport. I hope you guys know what teleport means, but teleport back to Cleveland so I can go celebrate with all my friends and all my coworkers and everyone that was there. The party did not stop and still has not stopped. It was a very crazy time. It was a very, very crazy time. So, I tell you all of these things because it's very important when you're aiming to sell sponsorships to brands and to potential partners. It's very important to know where your organization comes from, to know the roots of your organization, and to know your own organization's brand feeling. After I'm done speaking today, by the way, I'm going to use a lot of marketing terms, and I hope they translate well, so feel free to come and talk to me afterwards, please. So that sets the scene. Cleveland Cavaliers, we had a troubled history, but we took advantage of an opportunity and we won the city's first world championship in over 52 years. Now, we want to talk about a global opportunity. Actually, let me see here. So, moving forward, I want to talk to you about the opportunity at hand that we have as an organization, what we did and what we have done in order to seize that opportunity. And then I'm going to discuss with you a few actual case studies that are relevant and that I played a leading role in actually selling these sponsorships. And they also are international sponsorships, which in the NBA, it's very rare for a team to sell sponsorships on a global level in the way that teams or clubs from the Premier League does all over the world. So, global opportunity. What did we do to recognize what the opportunity was? So, it's something that we had to analyze in order to understand the true value proposition of what it is that we are trying to sell to potential sponsors. And in order to do that, we first have to talk about the NBA as a whole, the entire league. It's very important to understand what your league is about, because they're the ones that govern and organize the entire schedule. They have all the partners across the world in terms of media and broadcast coverage. And so we look to them to help us help us identify the opportunity. And then we included it in most of our presentations to sponsors. So first, the NBA, extremely diverse. Over 450 million people in the world play basketball today. It is currently the number one team sport in America, in the USA, and it is the number two team sport in the entire world. Number one, obviously, would be soccer or football, I believe you guys call it here. Correct? Yeah. Another thing to know about the NBA, about the value proposition at hand, is that the NBA has the highest concentration of millennials compared to all other major professional sports leagues in America. So that is the NFL, the National Football League, American football, the Major League Baseball, which I know I'm a big baseball fan. I know baseball is a huge sport in Korea. The National Hockey League, the NHL, and the Major League Soccer, which is also based in America. So basically, the NBA has the highest concentration of young people. I'm a millennial. I noticed that there are many millennials out here right now. That is a really, really, really big deal to brand marketers. To be able to have an impact on young people and their perceptions and the behaviors that they make is incredibly important to a marketer. So it's something that we need to clearly explain to our prospects. The NBA also has the highest concentration of teens, so of teenagers. So they have the youngest fans currently out of all the different leagues. In terms of the international presence, the NBA has offices in all of these countries at the moment. It is the most of all the leagues right now. You'll notice that there is not one yet in Korea, but that's why I'm here today. When we're talking to potential partners, it's important to mention this because we want them to understand that they have an opportunity to align with a truly, truly global brand. Now, in terms of engagement, and in marketing, when we talk about engagement, it's the pure number of people and interactions that they have, whether it be on social media and via online broadcasts and things like that. You can see all of these numbers here, but the most important thing that you need to know is that the NBA is continuously growing, and it's going to keep on growing. 218 countries broadcast games in 47 different languages right now. The NFL, which is the biggest league in America, they have a third of that number, and I believe they only broadcast in about 20 different languages. Exactly. The NBA also has a cultural relevance that is unparalleled to any of the other leagues as well. LeBron James, who again is on the Cleveland Cavaliers, has the most number of social media followers in the league. Last year, someone paid $80,000 to watch a game at Staples Center to see the Los Angeles Lakers. Why that is funny to me is that the Lakers were the worst team in the league last year, aside from the Philadelphia 76ers. And someone paid $80,000, American dollars, to watch a very, very bad team play basketball. But that is the power of the NBA and more so the Lakers. Also, in terms of video games, I know there's a lot of gamers here. I know Korea has a lot of video gamers. It's very, very big esports in America. NBA 2K is the number one selling game in the U.S. right now. And this is probably my most favorite stat here. How many people here are on Instagram? Okay, if you're not on Instagram, you should get on Instagram. I know everyone's on Facebook already. They have the entire world. The NBA is the 8th most followed Instagram page out of every brand. I mean, we're not talking about just sports, everything. So I think Katy Perry may be number one, and Justin Bieber, they're up there too. But we're talking about all brands, athletes, entertainers, musicians. The NBA is up towards that top of the list. And in terms of Facebook, they are the number 10 most followed brand in the world right now. Again, this just speaks a little bit more to the number of engagements that we have. I think the main idea that you get from this is that you can see that the NBA, in terms of just pure engagements, it trumps the entire, all these different professional sports leagues like the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, the MLS at this time. And the main reason for that, as I said before, is that we have the youngest fans right now. Again, you take it back to the way that we talk about the value proposition. brand marketers want to talk to young people, and that is the value that we give them. Okay, now in terms of coverage, what is the NBA doing right now to make sure that all those people who love watching basketball get to have the opportunity to actually watch live broadcasts? You'll see that, well, actually, this is more, I apologize, this slide is not supposed to be here, but this is actually more about the Cleveland Cavaliers. We had the most number of global TV broadcasts out of all the teams in the NBA last year. Out of all the teams in the NBA, we were second in total social media engagements. And we had over 2.6 million viewers that watched every single game, every single regular season game. That number gets inflated by a whole lot as soon as the playoffs start. I should mention that all of the numbers that you see are for the regular season. When you get into the playoffs as an organization in the NBA, these numbers more than quadruple. It essentially becomes an entirely different season in the playoffs. And that's when we see the most engagement throughout the year. But that doesn't take away from what happens in the regular season. No other league, no other professional sports league in America touches these numbers that we have currently in the NBA. I want to make one quick comment on the metrics and the data points that I have here. When you're going out there to sell sponsorships, I cannot stress enough how important it is to have up-to-date, current, and very, very honest metrics and data to open your conversations with prospects and with partners. We partner with the biggest company that provides this data, and someone asked me this question earlier today, and I actually had a meeting with this gentleman yesterday here in Korea. But the company is called Repucom. Has anyone heard of Repucom or Nielsen Sports? Anybody? Okay, that's a problem. Nielsen Sports and Repucom, we pay them to make sure that we get all this data to share with our partners. Because if we don't have the foundation to let people know exactly where we stand out of all the different leagues, the question then becomes, how are they supposed to know the benchmark to what's possible? Because what is the main goal in sponsorship? We are supposed to provide some type of return on investment when a partner's choosing to spend money with us. That's our goal. That's our only goal. It's very simple, but it is very, very difficult to execute. And another thing with sponsorship, it's also very hard to value properly. So anytime that we can insert data to provide evidence on what we do, we will always do that because that's how professionals do it. Otherwise, you're just talking to somebody and you're telling them that it's worth this much. But the reality of the situation is when you get to the highest level of selling sponsorships in sports, you need to have accurate data to make sure that people understand, that partners and prospects understand where you're coming from. And again, if you didn't know, Nielsen Sports and Repucom has a local presence in Korea right now. His name is John Moo, and I'll connect you with him if you'd like to speak with him. So, I want to start focusing a little bit more on the Cleveland Cavaliers, and again, when I'm talking to sponsors about the value proposition, this is the same type of flow that I would have in a presentation. And now it's time to focus on the Cleveland Cavaliers and what we as a brand can provide to you as a sponsor. LeBron James. We call it the LeBron James effect. I can't tell you how crazy it is to work in an organization with an athlete like this. It is beyond. It's beyond words. There hasn't been an athlete like this so polarizing since probably Michael Jordan. I'm not trying to compare the two. That's not what I'm trying to do. But in this day and age in sports, LeBron James has had to grow up in an entirely different world, a much more connected world. And I don't think that people talk about that enough, of how he has basically been in the spotlight since he was 18 years old. And he has delivered time and time and time again. And that has an effect on our business. It's not something that we pound on our chest. This isn't why we sell sponsorships, but it would be very not smart for us not to realize the value that he brings to our club. He's the most popular NBA athlete in China. He was just recently named, again, the best basketball player on the planet. And he is very much one who likes to maintain the quality of his own brand. So he has his own sports agency. He doesn't have many sponsors himself. He doesn't endorse many products because he's very, very, very directed at the kind of products and sponsors that he chooses to endorse. He likes to make sure that it's unique to his brand. Anyways, that's LeBron James. So, when we talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers with international connections, obviously LeBron James plays a big role in that because he is that impactful all over the world. We then have a gentleman by the name of Kyrie Irving in the middle there. And Tristan Thompson over here on the right. So Kyrie Irving is, I think, the best young basketball player in the NBA right now. He's only 24 years old, and he is the gentleman who hit the final game-winning shot in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Probably the most memorable moment I've seen in sports to this date. He was born in Australia. I don't know if you knew that, but he was born in Australia. And he is also in top 5 in the global jersey sales right now on the retail side for the NBA. And then the other gentleman we have is Tristan Thompson. He was born in Canada. Again, the main reason for this is we like to tell our global partners that we have some international connections on our team already. And that's important when you're trying to sell sponsorships to someone in Australia. So, again, back to metrics. All of these numbers here come from Repucom. We get a report from them every, I think, quarterly, so 4 times a year. So not only do we have current up-to-date data at all times, but we also get data from them from the entire world. We're one of the only NBA teams right now, out of all 30 teams, that currently pay Repucom to tell us how valuable we are in the media all over the world. So they tell us data in China, they tell us data in Australia, they tell us data in Europe, because we want to get a whole idea on the entire landscape. As a whole, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been top 3 in the NBA for desktop and mobile viewership. So we're talking about page views, unique visitors, average time spent on the site. At the time when this was done and when we got these results, we were number one out of all 30 teams in the NBA. It fluctuates a little bit, but we're constantly in the top 3 ever since LeBron has come back. So, to that point, it should also be noted that we actually have the largest digital team in the NBA of all teams. When I first started with the Cleveland Cavaliers, we had 8 people that worked on the digital team. We now have 36. The next closest in the NBA right now is 10 people. So we have an entire staff that their only job is to make sure that we have very, very unique and engaging content on our web platform. Again, in terms of value proposition, the reason why this is so important to sponsors is that the digital space has no boundaries. Social media has absolutely no boundaries. So it enables us to create stories for our partners that impact the entire world. We can have a campaign that only goes out to Australia. We can have a campaign that only goes out to Europe. The digital world has been a very, very fun thing to see evolve because it keeps on evolving and it's going to keep on changing. But we have turned it into an initiative to make sure that we're always at the top in terms of best practices and next practices. Again, social media. You'll see what you'll see. Again, this just speaks more to our Cavs.com on our web platform, our digital team, all the content that they put up. You'll see all the different places in the world where we have social followers. Korea is in there, but I was not able to update this slide, so I apologize. Again, the global TV audience. This is important because for the last 2 years now, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been seen, have had live broadcasts shown in more countries than any other team in the NBA. One of the biggest places for that is in China. If you don't already know, China has 1.4 billion people. That's still a really crazy number to me. In the USA, there's only 300 million people. We actually just got back from a trip 2 weeks ago. We went to China to see a bunch of our partners, and we also had a number of different meetings with different brands in that area because it's our goal to get more sponsorships in China. Over 350 million people in China actively watch basketball games and highlights. Because of that, they created a partnership with a company called Tencent that live broadcasts every single game in the NBA throughout the regular season. This was a massive, massive deal for the NBA. It was a 5-year, $500 million deal because what it does is allow us the opportunity to speak directly to the Chinese audience. So when we are going to sponsors that are based in China, we now have the ability to tell them that over 300 million people are watching our games every single time we go onto the court. And that has created a huge opportunity for us. So, what are we supposed to do with all of this? This is when we talk about strategy. You know, we know all these different things about how good the NBA is and how strong the Cleveland Cavaliers brand is. But now we are tasked with, well, how are we going to take advantage of this opportunity? So the NBA actually expanded our territory, and now we stretch into Ohio, Pennsylvania, and bits of New York. We also have China because of the 10-cent deal. And then internationally, we have the most games that are broadcasted throughout the entire world. So in order to take advantage of the opportunity, we needed help because we weren't experts in all these different countries. We hired an agency called PCG, and their main focus was in Australia. We then hired an agency called ESP. They are a global agency, and they have done some decent work for us in trying to gain sponsors in Europe, in South America, and also in China. In addition to that, we hired a gentleman who has become a very, very close friend to me. He's in China right now, actually, and his name is Summer Xia. He's a very young man. He's only 26 years old. And he's an incredibly green novice. He's incredibly novice when it comes to the sponsorship sales process. But he knows that he's a novice. The thing that he does offer to our team, to our international team, is he knows his role, and he's very, very good with numbers. The other thing that he's good with is being able to provide me with the knowledge I need about the cultural differences in doing business in China versus America. It's something we always have to be cognizant of, because at the end of the day, the way we do business in America is not the way we do business, or they do business in China. The way we do business in America is not going to be the same way that you guys do business in Korea. So having people like Summer is very important to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we're going to continue to bring on people like that to help us navigate these new territories. I put myself up there because I'm half Filipino, and the Philippines is second to China in total viewership. So we're having active conversation with companies in the Philippines as well. The difference with that is those brands don't have the same type of marketing spending power that the big global brands in China currently do. So the Philippines for us is still relatively untapped, but it is very important because they consume so much NBA content that it's impossible to ignore. So that's a specific area that I focus on as well. Okay, so in terms of positioning the opportunity, I like to tell this story because Manchester United, if you didn't know from the Premier League, is the biggest global sports brand in the world. Manchester, England is a very small place, yet they have the reach. They have the biggest reach out of all professional sports teams of any league, and it's crazy. So the reason why I mention that is it's very important for the Cleveland Cavaliers to have the right mindset when we go out to try and sell to sponsors across the world. Because of the advancements in the digital space, in social media, it doesn't matter how big the city of Cleveland, Ohio is. We are truly a global brand right now, and we have all the numbers and the data to back it up. Okay. So now I want to talk to you about some actual case studies to give you an idea on what a sponsorship looks like, what a well-executed sponsorship looks like. So we first focused, again, on Australia and China. And the main reasons for that was because of Kyrie Irving, who's still on our team, and a gentleman by the name of Matthew Dellavedova. He's no longer on the Cleveland Cavaliers, but he had a huge following in the city of Cleveland. And he also single-handedly gave us a presence in Australia that we never had before. We started to see numbers coming from Australia that Repucom sent us that we could not ignore, so we actively searched for companies in Australia to sell sponsorships to. And we eventually found one. So I'm going to go through two different case studies. One of them is Up and Go, which is based in Australia. And the other one is ZTE, which you may have heard of before. I think it's their top 5 in global smartphone manufacturers right now. They're based in China, but they also have a strong presence in the USA. The big difference between ZTE and Up and Go in Australia is that Up and Go does not sell any product in America. I'll repeat that again. They do not sell any product in America. So for us to try and for us to go out to Up and Go and have them commit to spending some of their marketing dollars with us, it's a weird thing to think about. But as a sports marketer, it's our job to clearly tell them what the value is and what that value proposition is, just like I mentioned before. So, Up and Go is based in Australia. The big idea that we had for them was the main goal was to help them sell more of their product to more people for more money. And their product, called Up and Go, it's a drink. It's a breakfast drink. I believe you guys probably have something like that here in Korea. And it's a drink that's often consumed in the morning in Australia. I have tasted it before. I don't like it. But my opinion doesn't matter. It's my job to help them sell it, because that's what we do. There's no point in lying about it. If a brand wants to leverage the power of the Cleveland Cavaliers brand and they're interested in seeing a proposal from me, I'm going to give them an opportunity to partner with us. So that's our job. So their main goal was to help them sell more Up and Go in Australia. And the big idea was to have an activation, a marketing activation that happened on social media that resonated in Australia. So we essentially wanted to do a marketing partnership that took a live NBA game, a Cleveland Cavaliers game, and used it as a platform for all of our social media followers in Australia. We integrated Up and Go into that whole messaging, and then we essentially allowed Up and Go to tap into the major viewership that Australians already had in watching the Cleveland Cavaliers play. So here's a video of that activation.
The first of its kind in the NBA. Up and Go has partnered not only with the NBA but with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the relationship is brand new as of this season.
It's the first time that an Australian company's partnered with the NBA and with the Cavaliers.
Our entertainers will be wearing this one as well. As you can see, it's Up and Go is all over it.
G'day, it's Matthew Dellavedova with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Just want to wish everyone a happy Australia Day back home.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie!
Happy Australia Day.
Go Delhi!
I just want to say a big thank you to the Cavs and Up and Go for bringing this Australia Day game to life. It's created a lot of excitement back home. Want to say happy Australia Day to everyone in Australia, especially everyone watching in Maryborough. Hey to Mum and Dad. Cavaliers!
Checking if you're Cavaliers. Number 8, Matthew Dellavedova.
Got to drink some more of that Up and Go breakfast blend.
Yes, that's right.
Pitchman for the Australian Breakfast Company.
On national television in Australia right now. So let's show them that we have the loudest and the best fans in the NBA.
Dellavedova plants.
Got it! Whoa! Delhi!
Stolen by Matthew Dellavedova. 2-on-1 with Miles gone. Up top. No, he threw it down.
I mean, it's I wouldn't have, in my wildest dreams thought something like this could happen. So huge thanks to the Cavs and Up and Go for making it happen.
So that was a very fun one to put together. We had buy-in from every single piece of our organization. The broadcast, our president, our CEO was involved, and it went extremely, extremely well because the game was also live in Australia. They have a ideal time zone, so it enabled everyone to basically wake up in the morning at 10 a.m. to watch the Cleveland Cavaliers play, and everything that we did in that game was tailored specifically for Australian fans of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it was very, very, very unique. We basically had the ability to help Up and Go sell more of their product when they don't even have it in the USA at all. It was extremely authentic as well. We brought in an Australian entertainer to sing the Australian national anthem. We brought in the consulate from Australia to come in. We integrated them into many different pieces of the entertainment during the actual game, and it was a very strong execution, and it has now allowed the Cleveland Cavaliers to go into a market that no NBA team was in previously. So essentially, we are now Australia's team, and it was fun to watch that whole thing come together. So next we want to talk about ZTE. We have a number of different partners in China now, but ZTE was our first and most significant one to date. Again, all of our games are broadcasted live in China, a lot of value over there, and ZTE wanted an opportunity to have an impact in China and the USA, because again, they sell their phones in the USA as well. So it was a no-brainer for them to want to find a way to get more involved with us as a sponsor. And what we ended up doing with them is including them and integrating them throughout our entire and first ever Cavs Chinese New Year celebration, which I just found out is during a similar time frame as the Korean New Year. Is that correct? That's good to know.
Welcome to our celebration of the Chinese New Year with our partners ZTE. Ganji Bata.
Yeah!
Good defense by JR.
Down the floor to J.R. Smith. Will he attack Bellinelli? Sure does. Gets to the rack. Good decision.
Happy Chinese New Year, everyone. Have a great night.
Again, this one was great. We had over 21 million people that watched that game that night. 21 million people. The numbers that come out of China are just crazy. And it was fun to build an activation, a marketing activation that tapped into that type of viewership. It was extremely authentic. We created an entire game day based on Chinese New Year. Aside from it being very authentic and genuine, it let all of our fans in China and all of ZTE's fans in China know that we cared about them and that we cared to speak directly to them. And that's what sponsorship's about. It has to be authentic. It has to be genuine. And I think we did a decent job of putting that together, so that this provided us a nice example of and structure of a sponsorship for when we go to speak to different prospects out of mainland China. So, what's next? You'll notice the Kia. That's Korean, right? Kia, Hyundai, all that. Big partner of the NBA and a partner of the Cleveland Cavaliers as well, as is Hyundai. But this is next for the entire NBA, for all the teams. At this moment, and what I'm talking about is the jersey sponsorship. So you'll see this little 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. I don't know what that translates into centimeters. But this was a very big deal for the NBA. We now have the ability to put sponsor logos on the jersey. It's never happened before, and it's very hard to evaluate right now. At the moment, only 2 teams have sold their jersey partnership: the Philadelphia 76ers and the Sacramento Kings. The Cleveland Cavaliers are valued as the second highest in the NBA right now. The first would be the Los Angeles Lakers. The Warriors are up there as well, and they're right along with us currently in the NBA. It's a very interesting opportunity. It's one that we constantly are analyzing. It's quite a bit different than the Premier League, but still a very nice initiative for us in the NBA.
Scoring performance of all time. 100 points for the Big Dipper.
Either Magic or Bird has competed, but this is the first time that the two have gone head-to-head for the title.
A courageous, classic performance by the flu-ridden Michael Jordan.
Down to Yao. Oh, great fake, the great wall of Yao.
With the first pick in the 2003 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select LeBron James.
Irving, oohs and ahs from the crowd.
Boy, Cavs are running this ball.
Gotta love it.
Cavaliers now have the defense totally on their heels.
LeBron James, too easy. For 3. He knew it was good when he let it go.
They'll change.
James on the drive. It's been one of the most anticipated finals in the history of the NBA.
Ceiling, blocked by Thompson. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up.
It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is
is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
All right. Anyways, so this is why I'm here. This is why I'm in Korea. The Cleveland Cavaliers have a new opportunity to speak to many different brands across the world, and we are very, very, very excited about this opportunity, and it's one that we are constantly analyzing and evolving and improving, and we'll continue to do that as the years go on. So now I would love to get any questions that you may have. Please ask away. I have this headset in. I think it should work, but I can't really see because of the lights. So if you have a question, raise your hand or yell it out or do whatever you need to do. We got a question over here in the back. Don't be shy. Please ask me questions.
So you guys are from Cavaliers, and you see there's a professional basketball league in Korea. What do you think about the quality of basketball, and do you think any players can potentially go to the NBA? Yeah.
Thank you. I don't need a translation with that one, so that's good. Appreciate the question. That's a very, very good question. I am familiar with the KBL, right? The Korean Basketball League. I am familiar with the Korean Basketball League. I also know that they make a presence at the Summer League, at the NBA Summer League every year in Las Vegas. Clearly, the easiest way to gain more interest in Korea is if we had a Korean player. We all know that. The NBA knows that. I think the best example of this happening in the world for the NBA was with Yao Ming in China. If and when that happens in the Korean Basketball League, that will be huge for the NBA, clearly. I don't know of the current talent in the KBL right now, but I do know that it's known around the world. So hopefully that happens someday. That would be great, because then I'd be able to come and visit Korea to see my friend Sean Kim over here more often. So hopefully that happens someday. I hope that answered your question. Good. Please, any more questions? Yes, you in the back.
Good afternoon. I'm a big fan of NBA and also the Cleveland Cavaliers. As you mentioned, the Cavaliers had an easier way because of LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, or Kevin Love. But what if you guys didn't have those players? Would the strategy be different? Or what would be the effective marketing strategy if you guys didn't have any those superstars?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. In the beginning of my presentation, I talked about things we can control and things we can't control. We'll never be able to control whether the Cleveland Cavaliers wins or loses, and we can't control whether LeBron James is going to choose to come back to Cleveland someday again. However, we can control all the different other parts about our business to allow us to be ready for such an opportunity if it comes along. If you had to ask me the question of would I be here in Korea today if LeBron James came to the Cavs, it's probably unlikely. But the fact of the matter is that he did come back. And now we're left with an initiative to take advantage of the viewership that we do have across the world. And we'll, as LeBron James likes to say, we'll let the results live as they are. But yeah, the environment that we're in is something we can't control, but we can control the internal part of what we do, and we would handle that approach if that was to happen. Thank you for the question. Another question in the crowd. Front right here.
Thank you for your presentation today.
You're welcome.
I want to ask, like, at first you mentioned about the value of team is important. So I want to ask, what do you think the biggest value of your Cleveland?
Oh,
yeah.
You say what is the most valuable part about the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Yes.
In terms of marketing or in terms of our organization internally? Are you looking at more from a marketing perspective?
Yes. Or marketing, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that we won the world championship. That was a big deal. And I think the most obvious one is that we have LeBron James. That's my answer. Right here in the middle.
I would like to ask if you have thought of another sponsorship in Korea, or if you're interested in any particular sponsorship or partnership in Korea.
The short answer to that is yes. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that there was an opportunity in Korea. There are some very, very big global brands here. One of my main goals in the next 3 days that I have here is to identify what the sponsorship landscape looks like here. And I've had a couple of meetings already to get a better understanding on that. And that's what I was tasked with from my organization, is to find out what's going on in Korea. Because right now, just like Australia, just like I mentioned before, it's relatively untapped. But again, there are some very, very big global brands here, and a number of them. And if you're out there today, please make sure you come see me or email me or please call me so we can at least have an initial conversation. Thank you for your question. I think that's about it. Oh, we got time for one more question. Miss in the back. The young lady in the back, please, with the smoothie in her hand. I could use one of those right now.
Yeah, thank you very much for your great presentation. And my question is that, what do you think about the future trend regarding sports sponsorship? I think just advertising on the fans or partnership and press release, these are just old-fashioned, and the general public is quite tired of that. So what do you think about the future trend for sports sponsorship in the future?
Thank you very much. That's the best question of the day so far. Fantastic question, because that speaks closely to what I believe. There's an old way of selling sponsorships, and many of the teams in the NBA and across all the different leagues still approach sponsorships like that. But I, like you, am a young person, and I feel like I know what resonates when it comes to sports marketing and sports sponsorships in general. And when I go out and speak to brands, one of the main things that I do is try to clearly understand their positioning. And again, that's another marketing term, but positioning is basically what makes them better and different in comparison to their competitors. And another way to call that would be the brand feeling. Once you have a very clear representation of what that means to the prospect that you're speaking to, it's your job as a sports marketer to create unique and extremely authentic and genuine initiatives within that entire platform of a sponsorship, and then take it and weave it in to the areas of, in my instance, the Cleveland Cavaliers, where that brand feeling makes the most sense throughout a game. You mentioned press releases and LED signage and stuff like that. Those are very, very important, and it's the reason why why we have all the numbers and all the different viewership, the global viewership and the global broadcasts. But to me, and what it's starting to go into for sports marketing is those pieces, although they're important, they should be used to support an overall big idea. And when you can present that to a brand and show them that you really know about what they're trying to sell or what they're trying to do, that's what enables them to say, hey, I will write this check for you because you understand me and you understand our customers. It's a much more complex world to sell sports sponsorships these days, especially at the highest level. So you have to be entirely buttoned up, and you have to be educated, and you have to care. You have to really, really care, because as good as the Cleveland Cavaliers are, and as much as the viewership we have, if you can't accurately tell a brand or tell customers what that brand is trying to do, then to me, it's not really sports marketing anymore, and it won't resonate with young people like a lot of people in this room. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's a good question. All right, well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me today.